gonna talk about WoW. Great game, WoW. First raid that I ever did, way back in the day. It was Onyxia, but it wasn't the 60 version. It was the level 80 version. Came out right after trial, right? TOC. Whatever the trials are called. Right, 3.22, I think. 2.2. Anyway, right, so I started playing around when Ulduar came out, I think. Early that summer, like in June, I think is when I came out. And I hit level 80. Max level first time. I think it was the day ICC came out. So, a few weeks later, maybe a few days later, I joined a 25-man pug. Way back when gear score was a thing, right? Right, so, you know, gotta have the 4,000 gear score, the 4K gear score to go in. Right, I think, kind of cheated my way in a little bit. I didn't really have very good gear, but I had enough gear to do the instance, right? But I was really bad. Playing my Warlock. And I kind of remember the mechanics not really being that complicated. Even though people still didn't get it. And people were complaining about the DPS, and they kicked a few people. They didn't get rid of me for some reason after a couple wipes. Whatever. I guess I got lucky. But we did get it down that day. That group. Got the head. Nice ring, or necklace or something, or whatever, out of it. And I remember sort of feeling like, okay, I got a ring. Like, great. That's not all that great. But it sort of was like, you know, could get more. Right? You feel like you could get more than that. And so it kind of made you want to go get more. Which was kind of cool. But, and that set me up, for a lot more raiding in the near future at the time. Anyway, so one thing I really liked about the instance that they don't really do anymore. They only did it once or twice. I can think of 4 instances. Actually, no, there are more. Where there's only one boss, right? Like this one, like Onyxia's Lair, or like Malygos, or I think Magtheridon's Lair was the only boss in that instance, I think. And for some reason they don't do those anymore, right? The most recent thing that they did that was similar was Throne of the Four Winds, back in Tier 11, but they didn't really. There wasn't anything in Pandaria. There were a couple of world bosses, I guess. I guess that's similar, but not quite. World bosses aren't quite the same thing as an actual raid boss, where, you know, it's just like this other thing that's going on. It helps make the current raid tier less linear, right? Like a lot less linear, because there's a whole other instance with its own thing. Which, you know, at any point, if you're having trouble, right? If you're, you know, in a casual progression guild, then you're having trouble, you can go and do that instance, right? Like at the time within this instance in particular, if you were struggling with, you know, something in ICC, right? Early in ICC, you can go back to Ani. Like, go back to Onyxia's Lair and get a piece of gear, right? If you already did TOC, and if this is like early in ICC progression, or if it's during TOC progression, right? You can just hop back over here and maybe get some gear for people. Help out progression, that kind of thing. Right? Because at the time it was a really good idea, because the first 5 bosses in TOC were, well, all of them were real linear, but there's only 5 of them, all right in a row. ICC, first 4 bosses, all right in a row. You have no choice. So yeah. But in terms of just bosses and raids that have like one boss, there were a lot of opportunities to do them, and for some reason they just don't want to. Blizz doesn't want to. I don't know why. But I think it's a good idea. Maybe it's, I don't know, because like in Cataclysm they had, what I listed here, 3 chances, 3 times that they could have made like a small raid, right? Like the Abyssal Maw could have been a 2 or 3 boss raid. Hall of Originations, that was a 5-man. That was like, it was huge, right? There was 7 bosses in it. In Cataclysm. And that's so many. Why there's 7? Only 3 are actually needed, right? There's only 3 that you only need to do to finish the instance, right? But there's like an extra 4 to sort of line around. And then the Well of Eternity instance was supposed to be a raid, right? The War of the Ancients raid. That never happened. And the thing is, if any of those 3, actually, if all of them were, but if any of them were made into raids instead of 5-mans, I think Cataclysm might have been a lot better, right? Because the main problem with that expansion was there was just not enough to do, and there was nothing new that came out right between like December when it came out and like July when Firelands had. So there was like 1 patch with 2 5-mans. 4.1 in like March, which is nothing. It's not really anything to do. For most people, it's just a pain. So it really didn't help the game out, and you can see that with like subscription numbers that just fell. And like the second quarter of 2011, I think it was, where they lost like 15% of their subscriber base in that much time. Because people felt like they had nothing to do, right? They did 4.0, the heroics were great, I thought. It kept you busy, it was fun to do, but after a while it just got boring because there wasn't anything, and then you were paying for nothing new. So, people left. Another thing is that Firelands and Dragon Soul, which is a terrible name for instance. Anyway, they were both really short, right? 7 boss, 8 boss instances. If there was just like another raid in between them, like the War of the Ancients, that had just like 3 bosses in it, right? That would have helped out so much, because like it felt like when you were in there, it's just like there's 1 boss that you can do, right? Dragon Soul was really linear. There's only 1 option really that you had. It was either the 2nd or the 3rd boss. You could do that in either order. And Firelands, the first 4 bosses could pretty much be done in any order. Right, so in between Firelands, where the last 3 bosses are linear, and Dragon Soul, where pretty much the whole thing is linear, if there was a raid in there, another raid, that would have helped, like Well of Eternity, that would have really helped out the whole linearity thing. So yeah, anyway, that was my first raid in Nixia's Lair. And, I ended up running it quite a bit, actually, before I really joined a guild that that would do other rating like an ICC, but it was, I think it was a good idea for them to put that back in the game, to remake it at level 80, even though it really didn't make any sense in terms of the lore to do so. I think it helped. It helped mainly casual players, really, which is something else I'm going to talk about. But anyway, yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching.